All right, let's dive into one of the wildest stories in modern economic history. We're talking about how a country that was on track to basically own the world just stopped. And the whole thing, this whole massive story, really kicks off with one single number.
So this is it. This is the peak. December 29th, 1989. The Nikkei, which is kind of like Japan's Dow Jones, hits this astronomical figure. It was the absolute summit, the Mount Everest of their economic climb. I mean, it symbolized a nation at the very, very height of its power. But what did that actually feel like? What did it look like in the real world?
I mean, just let that sink in. Not just a city, but the land under it was supposedly worth more than all the land in the entire United States. This wasn't just confidence, it was this collective national delusion that they were unstoppable. And the numbers that propped up this idea, they're just mind-bending.
And this feeling, it was absolutely everywhere. You had a single district in Tokyo that was supposedly worth more than all of Canada. Think about that. One company, NTT, was worth more than IBM, GM, Exxon, AT&T, and GE put together. And Japanese companies were just buying everything, snapping up iconic American landmarks like Rockefeller Center. The whole country believed it. Japan is number one. So the question is, how in the world did things get so bubbly?
Okay, so to really get how they got to that insane peak, we've got to rewind a bit, back to 1985. The setting? The Plaza Hotel in New York City. This one meeting, right here, is where the fuse for the whole thing was lit.
So in the mid-80s, the US was really feeling the heat. It had this massive trade deficit, which basically means it was buying way more stuff from other countries than it was selling. And a huge reason for that? Japan's unstoppable export machine. Those high-quality, super reliable Japanese cars and electronics were just flooding the market. So Uncle Sam decided, all right, we've got to do something about this.
And their big solution was something called the Plaza Accord. Picture this. The world's top 5 economies get in a room, and the US pretty much says to Japan and Germany, look guys, your currencies are way too cheap and ours is too expensive. It's killing us. You need to make your currency stronger so we can even things out.
Well, this agreement set off this incredible chain reaction. The Plaza Accord, it worked, maybe a little too well. The Japanese yen just skyrocketed. And when your currency gets super strong, your exports become super expensive for everyone else. This slammed the brakes on Japan's export economy, tipping it into a recession. So what does the Bank of Japan do? They follow the classic playbook. They slash interest rates, cutting them from 5% down to 2.5%. And boom, suddenly the entire system is flooded with cheap, easy money.
Okay, and this is a really key point. There are kind of 2 types of bubbles, right? There's an asset bubble. That's when things like stocks and real estate prices just go to the moon. But then there's a credit bubble. That's when the whole system is swimming in cheap loans and everyone is borrowing like there's no tomorrow. Japan didn't just have one. They had both. You had this insane amount of easy money fueling a wild speculation frenzy. It was the absolute perfect storm.
So, fast forward to 1989. The Bank of Japan looks around and realizes, uh-oh, this party has gotten way, way out of hand. They had to do something. So they didn't just tap the brakes, they slammed them to the floor. They jacked up interest rates aggressively, all the way from 2.5% up to 6%. And just like that, the music stopped.
The crash was instant, and it was brutal. The Nikkei just fell off a cliff. But here's what made this one different. You know how most market crashes have a sharp drop and then eventually a recovery? Not this one. This one just kept on falling for more than 10 years. It was this slow, painful, grinding journey down. And here's something that's so important to get. This wasn't just one big event. You can think of it like a boxing match. The stock market crash in 1990, that was the first big punch. It hurt, for sure, but the knockout blow, the one that really, truly crippled the economy for a generation, that didn't come until 1997, when the entire banking system started to buckle and collapse.
So when that credit bubble finally burst, it left behind this weird economic wasteland filled with what people started calling zombie companies. These were businesses that were basically dead. They should have gone bankrupt. But the banks that loaned them all that money kept propping them up with more cheap loans because they didn't want to admit how bad their losses were. So these zombie companies just shuffled along for years, sucking the life out of the healthy parts of the economy.
Okay, so now you have an economy that's basically stuck in quicksand. It's bogged down by these zombie companies and mountains of bad debt. And because nothing normal was working, Japan basically turned itself into a giant laboratory for the most extreme economic experiments the world had ever seen. The old rulebook was thrown out the window.
And I mean, they went all in. In 1999, they were the first to try zero interest rates. When that didn't do the trick, in 2001, they literally invented quantitative easing. Yeah, the QE, the massive money printing we hear about all the time now, Japan did it first. Then in 2012, they launched Abenomics. And then in 2016, they went to a place no one thought possible, negative interest rates.
Probably the most famous of all these experiments was Abenomics, named for Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The idea was simple, kinda. It was called the three arrows approach. Basically, you fire everything you've got at once. Arrow 1, print an insane amount of money. Arrow 2, spend a ton of government money. And Arrow 3, try to reform the economy. The hope was that this massive shock and awe campaign would finally jolt the economy back to life.
And when we talk about that first arrow, the money printing, the scale was just breathtaking. I mean, look at the Bank of Japan's balance sheet. It just exploded upwards. They were buying up so many government bonds, so many stocks, that people started joking they were literally trying to buy the entire country.
But here's the crazy part. After unleashing this financial shock and awe on a scale the world had never seen, the result was confusing. The stock market, it loved it. It soared. But the actual economy, jobs, wages, regular people's lives, it just stayed flat. And that's the big mystery we need to solve. Why didn't it work? Where did all that money actually end up?
Well, it turns out the answer wasn't really about finance at all. It was about two huge, powerful forces that were dragging Japan's economy down like a powerful undertow. And no amount of money printing, no clever policy from a central bank was going to fix them.
So, force number 1, demographics. Simple as that. See, a healthy economy usually looks like a pyramid, right? Lots of young people at the bottom, working, starting families, buying stuff. But Japan's pyramid got flipped upside down. It became top-heavy. A huge number of retirees at the top and a shrinking number of young workers at the bottom. And it's just basic math. Fewer people working and spending means the economy isn't going to grow.
The second force was all in people's heads. It was psychological. After decades of prices not going up or even going down, an entire generation of Japanese people was trained to expect things to get cheaper. It's a mindset called a deflationary psychology. And think about it. If you believe that new TV is going to be cheaper next year, why buy it now? You wait. And if you're a company and you know people won't pay more, you don't raise your prices. It becomes this trap that feeds on itself.
And to give you an idea of how deep this went, it got to the point where a company would issue a public apology if they had to raise the price of a snack or a drink. A public apology. That just shows you how powerful this mindset was. It made it pretty much impossible for the government to get the economy's engine, inflation, started again.
So what you end up with is this vicious cycle, a doom loop. You have an aging population and this deflationary mindset, so people just don't spend money. And because they aren't spending, companies are too scared to raise prices, which means they also don't raise wages. And well, if your wages aren't going up, you have even less reason to go out and spend. And the whole cycle just keeps repeating.
And that finally answers our big question, where did all that printed money go? It didn't flow into the pockets of regular people to break that cycle. Nope. Companies looked around, saw nobody was spending, so they didn't invest in new factories or give out raises. Instead, they just saved the money, bought back their own stock, or sent it overseas. All that cash got trapped in the financial system, making the stock market go up, but doing almost nothing for the real economy.
Which leaves us with one pretty chilling final thought. For a long, long time, everyone looked at Japan and thought, wow, that's a crazy, unique story, a cautionary tale. But now, as so many other developed countries in Europe and North America start to face their own aging populations and struggle with low growth, you have to wonder, was Japan just a weird one-off, or were they actually showing us all a glimpse of the future?